economic and military capacity provides them leverage, even after periodically finding out the limits of US influence. And both sides have their own stereotypes about each other, traceable back to Pakistan's emergence as an independent country. During that period, soon after emerging from British India's bloody partition in 1947, Pakistan's leaders confronted an uncertain future for their new country. When most of the world was indifferent to Pakistan as the potential homeland of South Asia's Muslims, India antagonized Pakistan without compromise or compassion. Because of this, soon after independence, Pakistan's founding fathers, encouraged by some British geostrategists, decided that they would continue to maintain the large army they had inherited, even though the new nation could not afford to pay for it from its own resources, and did not immediately face a visible security threat. Given Pakistan's location at the crossroads of the Middle East and South Asia, and its relative proximity to the Soviet Union, Pakistanis assumed that the United States would take an interest in financing and arming the fledgling new state. Thus, the gap in expectations between American and Pakistani leaders that has bedeviled their relationship over the last 65 years should have been apparent right at the beginning, when Pakistan's founding father and its first Governor-General, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, asked the United States for a $2 billion aid package in September 1947. But the United States gave Pakistan only $10 million in assistance that first year. International relations thinkers like Hans J. Morgenthau and George Kennan did not see Pakistan's value to the United States as an ally. After all, Pakistan's primary concern, competing with India for regional influence, was not a strategic concern for the United States. But after Dwight D. Eisenhower was elected president in 1952, his Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, embraced the idea that Pakistan could be influenced into sharing U.S. strategic concerns in exchange for weapons and aid. Primarily because of geopolitical considerations, the United States has enlisted Pakistan as an ally on 3 occasions. During the Cold War, 1954 to 1972, the war against the Soviets in Afghanistan, 1979 to 1989, and the war against terrorism, 2001 to present. In each instance, the US motive for seeking Pakistani alliance has been different from Pakistan's reasons for accepting it. For example, after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the United States saw an opportunity to avenge the Vietnam War and bleed the Soviet Red Army with the help of Mujahideen, militant Islamic radicals trained by Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, ISI, and funded by United States Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. Pakistan, however, looked upon the military action in Afghanistan as a jihad to be used as the launching pad for asymmetric warfare that would increase its clout against India. Since my days as a student at Karachi University, I found the anti-American narrative that was prevalent all around me difficult to believe. I spent many hours at the American Center Library, reading books and articles that exposed me to different perspectives of historic events. Unlike my colleagues, I could see through the absurdity of conspiracy theories. When student protesters burned down the US Embassy in Islamabad in 1979, I was a student leader allied to Islamists on my campus. A huge demonstration was organized at short notice, with university buses commandeered to transport protesters to the US consulate in Karachi. Several student speakers urged the mob to burn down the consulate, and the mob was ready to do so until I was called on to speak. My speech, citing the Quran and demanding that ascertainment of facts precede action, saved the US consulate and its library from meeting the same fate as the embassy in Islamabad. Later, as a journalist, I covered the anti-Soviet Afghan war, observing first-hand the flow of US arms to the Mujahideen. My first foray into government was as advisor to Nawaz Sharif, who in 1989 aspired to become